Hey there, Rick Sage, recording at the Rimrock Studios in Bishop, California. Welcome to Season 2 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where I speak with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz and share their stories, tips, advice, productivity tricks, and ideas you can use to take your career or business to the next level. Today's podcast is brought to you by InMotion Hosting. I've used InMotion Hosting to host my websites for years. Rick Say's Photos, blogs, Stillwater's Consulting, and the Outdoor Biz Podcast are all hosted with InMotion Hosting. If your New Year's resolution is to publish a blog, produce a podcast, or simply secure a domain name, go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion and sign up with them today. They make it simple and quick to get a new site up and running with easy installation tools. That's theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion. Get going today. This episode is with Smartwool President Travis Campbell. We talk about how he's settling into Steamboat and his role at Smartwool, his experience with Sage Farbank, and the work the industry continues to do in the public lands battle. Welcome to the show, Travis. How you doing?
Good, Rick. Thanks. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, glad to have you. So the first question I have to ask you is, how's the fishing in New Zealand? You said you only got a day, right?
You know what? I ended up getting about 3 hours, and so I can't even call it a day. Right. But I would describe it as a good whetting of the appetite. I want to go back.
Yeah, that's what I hear, yeah.
3 hours was awesome. I'd like to have 10 or 12.
Yeah, was that your first time down there?
It was my first time in New Zealand, definitely my first time fishing down there.
Yeah.
And it looked just as described. Beautiful water, beautiful country, big fish. They just didn't seem to want to eat my fly.
Well, big smart fish, right? Isn't that water like super clear and this fish are spooky?
It's crazy clear water.
Yeah.
And you see them. I mean, you can see the fish. They see you. It's definitely a different game than I'm used to.
Right. Well, cool. So, how did you get into the outdoors? Was that start fishing as a kid, or how'd that come about?
Yeah. So, I spent my first 6 years. My family lived down in Miami. Of all places. It's funny, I think of myself as a Northwesterner.
Yeah, I do too.
But we lived in Miami till I was 6, and wow. It seemed like we spent every weekend down in the Florida Keys. And my family would just go down there and we'd camp and we'd fish. And
nice.
My mom always tells the story of I caught my first fish at 2 years old, and I never stopped.
Awesome. Right? Were you fly fishing at 2 years old?
No, for sure not. I don't think I probably didn't even really figure out fly fishing until I was 12 or 13.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And, I still, I'm a passionate fisherman. I just like catching fish. All things being equal, I like to catch them on a fly rod.
Right.
But if I need to, I'll use a spinning rod.
I'm the same.
I'm definitely not a purist.
Yeah, I'm the same. So how did you get into the outdoor industry? What was your first outdoor job?
Yeah, so I came out of college and I went into the consulting industry. Not necessarily because I wanted to be a consultant, it's sort of for lack of knowing really what I wanted to do. And I did a bunch of years there, and then I decided to get out very intentionally, and I went back to business school. And when I was looking for a summer job between first and second year, I just applied to companies that made outdoor stuff I was really passionate about. And so I tried to get jobs with fly fishing brands and mountain bike brands and ski brands, and the only folks that would have me were Sage in the fly fishing space. And
that's a good
so I got a summer job.
Land.
Totally. I had to pinch myself at the time, and frankly, I still sort of pinch myself. It was super lucky, super fortunate to get that opportunity, because it ultimately turned into a full-time job when I finished business school.
Right.
And so I went from being a summer intern to working for the company full-time.
That's
when I finished school.
And you were there for a handful of years, right? Almost 10 years?
A big handful, yeah. I ended up doing, I think it was 16 years.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and we evolved that company from being just Sage to we ended up buying Reddington, and then we bought Rio,
right,
and turned it into a company we called Farbank Enterprises. Mm-hmm. And so I think I spent my last 8 or so years as CEO of that enterprise.
Yeah, awesome. I was talking to Bill Dawson the other day about some stuff. Yeah,
good old Billy D.
Billy D. He's still repping Sage.
He is.
Yep.
He's one of the good ones.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah. So, how are you settling into your role at the Outdoor Industry Association? That's also new this year, in addition to your role at Smartwool.
Yeah, the good news for me, I had been on the board for the Outdoor Industry Association for 7 or 8 years, and so my new role as chair it's definitely a change. The chair role ends up having a fair amount more responsibility,
right.
But at least it doesn't feel crazy new to me.
The players, you know the landscape. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I know the landscape, and the cool thing is we've got a really strong board for the outdoor industry, and then a strong group of staff and a really great leader in Amy Roberts.
Yeah,
and
right.
So, my transition into that role, I think, has been pretty seamless. It's not to say the industry isn't in a tumultuous time between show moves and what we've got going on in the federal government right now, and there's no shortage of work or shortage of complexity, but
right.
I feel like we got a good team in place, and I think we're generally doing good stuff.
You guys are doing great work. Yeah, no, it's awesome. I interviewed Stacia the other day. She's going to be on in a couple of weeks.
Right on.
Yeah, so we talked about the Skip Yal Future Leadership Academy and all that stuff. You guys are doing great work. So keep that up. That's awesome.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and what are industry members saying about 2017? Are they pretty happy with how it all went down, or it's a little bumpy? We had some more retailer closings and.
Yeah, I used the word tumultuous
That's a good term.
ago. It remains, I think, a really rocky time in the space. And in thinking about it, I feel like the industry is no longer moving sort of in lockstep, either up or down. We're in this phase of the industry where we've got subsegments that are moving up and we've got subsegments that are moving down, and it's just noisy, and so I feel like it's hard for me to say at a macro level that the industry had a really good 2017. I think, as I've talked to folks that crushed it in 17. And then I've talked, just as you said, a bunch of people went bankrupt in 2017.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things about the outdoor biz is it's a really diffuse, fragmented industry as a rule. There's suppliers, there's brands, there's retailers, we're lots of little companies spread out all over the country and the world. And so, it just feels like we're in this interesting phase, just lots of noise. I talk about it internally with Smartwell. This is a phase where I think businesses are going to make big moves either up or down. There's not a lot of just kind of plugging along. And so that's just, I think, related to the pace of change and the level of noise.
That's a good way to put it, because for many years, we were just kind of like, you just plug and play, right? Here comes another year.
Totally.
You count on who you're going to sell to. They're going to buy 20% more, and away we go. And man, last, I would say, 5 years, bumpy road.
Yep, totally. And I think as an industry, we were sort of used to that consistency of just plugging along and growing and growing and growing and growing. And now we're in this phase of like, whoa, maybe we're not all growing. And it's hard to understand exactly what's going on. There's just a lot of different storylines.
Yeah. And what are people hoping to see improvement in specific areas? I mean, we all look for it to get better, but what are people saying about the improvement they're looking for?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's another one of those interesting ones. I think everybody would love to see a little more consistency at retail. And just, fewer people going out of business.
Yeah.
And so I think within that, obviously, I think everybody would hope for a less promotional retail environment. I think outdoor at its best is a full price industry. And I think, sort of structured to be that. And so we operate best in that space. I think we'd love to see a little less chaos coming out of DC. And I'd say negativity. I think we were really fortunate in the last administration. They got the outdoor industry from my perspective, meaning they understood that we were creating jobs and we were an important economic sector, and those things that politicians generally like. And this administration just has not seemed to understand that in the same manner. So, we continue to try and educate them.
Yeah, it's a different world out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, I guess the other, I think people, a little bit of industry, I'll call it stability and unity, probably too, right? It's just, there's just been a lot of noise. And, I think it's a fractious time, and I think this industry likes unity. We like being part of this big giant tribe doing good stuff, and And so I think everybody would be excited to get back to that storyline.
Yeah, it's almost like we've been on this great adventure trip, whether it's a backpacking trip or a ski trip, and we have had perfect weather, perfect conditions, no issues, and now all of a sudden the wind's blowing, there's snow and rain. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, we don't like this.
No, I think that's a good analogy.
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. So the public,
I think we're still adjusting to that, right?
I think you're right. It just happened. Yeah, right. I mean, in the large picture of things, it's really, of this, 50-year industry or whatever it is, only in the last 5. Well, it was probably pretty bumpy at the beginning too, but we had this long stretch of calm, and now, like we're talking about, in the last 3 to 5, it's just been wow, batten the hatches, folks.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens. And this public lands battle is, these things seem like they're springing up like waves on the beach. Every time you turn around, there's a new battle. How can we do more? What else do you think we can do to keep fighting that? We're doing a lot, but I always wonder: are we doing the right things? Do we need to be louder? Do we need to be more controversial? What is it that we can really smack them in the head, kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They do seem to be regrettably popping up all over the place. They seem to be largely driven at the federal level right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that what do we do differently? I was in D.C. a couple weeks ago, early December, doing some lobbying, and I had somebody there who certainly understands politics better than me say the line that, like, the outdoor industry is we're good at protesting, but we're not yet very good at politics.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, I've thought a lot about that line, mm-hmm. And OIA's we got super good government affairs staff, right, like doing really good stuff in DC. And so I don't think the line is critical of that work. I think it was really acknowledging that we are this diffuse kind of grassroots industry. Mm-hmm. And, we're good at getting fired up about things that, like public lands, but we're still pretty unsophisticated in how we compete in DC. Okay. And so I guess what I'd say is, like, we got to keep up the fight at the federal level, and that's everything from our lobbying efforts to the fly-ins to the Capitol Summit we do, mm-hmm. That on the ground press and flesh in DC thing. Right. But the piece I think I'd encourage us to add in is remembering that it's also a local battle. Mm-hmm. And, and I actually think at the local level, whether that's state or county or city, we're doing a lot better, mm-hmm. frankly. Mm-hmm. And I think that we can continue to really gain ground there. I think about, we've gotten a bunch of state Office of Outdoor Recreation right. created and funded. And I think we got the opportunity to get a bunch more of those funded.
Yeah, California's on the cusp. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Right. So those are super exciting things. And I think tons of bond measures have gotten passed locally to support parks and open space and all that stuff. And so while it's really frustrating at the federal level right now, I think there's lots and lots of opportunity at the state and local level for us to really make some positive progress. And so I get excited about that end of things. And I think, when we talk about city councils and county commissions and state legislatures, we can, as an outdoor industry, make a lot of progress in those spaces right now. Right.
Do you remember a couple of years ago, there was an event at Cafe Molise outside? I think it must have been an outdoor industry event or maybe Conservation Alliance event. And Steve Barker was about to take the microphone to say something to the crowd, and he handed it over to a guy from, I think it was Seattle, a politician. And that guy really laid it on us about how, just what you're talking about. He says, I need you people to, it's great that you go on Facebook and you go sign these petitions and do all that stuff, but what I need is you to come down to my office, get a bunch of your friends and tell me what you want me to do, so we meet face to face, have that conversation, then go back and talk to all your amongst your friends. And then when I do it, or if I don't do it, get those same guys and come back down to the office and kick my butt about it. And that's to your point about that local thing, whether it's, at the state level or just go beat up on your county commissioner, whatever it is. And also don't just beat up on them, show them the love too when they do things that we support. So
totally. Right. Yeah. And that goes all the way back to getting out and voting, and making sure that we're supporting people that are running for office that share our values. And so we need to speak with our vote too.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point. So let's shift gears a little bit. What are you most excited about for the show to moving to Denver, other than you don't have to travel so far? Because it's still a bit of a trek for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still, it's a 3.5 or so hour drive down.
Yeah.
But I got to be careful about complaining about that when lots of people are flying in for it.
Right.
If I were going to joke about it, I'm excited for a full strength cocktail.
You're the second person that said that. Mike Wallenfeld said the same thing.
Yeah. I've had a lot of years of bad martinis in Salt Lake.
Exactly, yeah. And only those of us that were at the first Salt Lake shows can relate to that.
Yeah. So being more serious about it, I think coming to Denver kind of has two things. One, I think the change of venue just gives the opportunity for, I'll say, a renewed level of energy and excitement around the show.
Totally agree.
A little bit of just a change, a change of routine, a change of pace. I don't know where I'm going to go to dinner.
Right.
Change your routine's good. And then I think the cool thing, Colorado and Denver specifically have been just super welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
The state has really bent over backwards to try and get the show here and then be supportive of the show. And I think what's cool is we'll get the opportunity to highlight a state that really seems to understand the value of outdoor recreation and the recreation economy and just sort of, I'll say, put a nice bow on the whole outdoor industry.
Yeah. I talked to Luis a few weeks ago. They're doing some great things state level out there. It's awesome.
Totally. Yeah. And they're super excited to have the show and get to showcase some of the things they're doing.
Right.
And so I think it's just, renewed energy and excitement. And I think that will be good for us just broadly as an industry.
Mm-hmm. Great. And does Smartworld have any specific events planned? I'm sure you guys are doing something. Everybody's doing cocktails every night like they usually do. But do you have any big to supporting anything bigger than that? Not that that's not enough.
We're not. Yeah, we're certainly going to have cocktails. We're not doing anything really crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I think like lots of folks, we're selling product in the booth this year to support POW and Conservation Alliance.
Cool. Great. Mm-hmm.
We've been doing that for a few years, and we like doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Just connect the dots in lots of good ways.
Yeah.
And those are two great organizations that we support, and I think the whole outdoor industry generally supports.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
One interesting thing I haven't figured out. I don't think we know exactly how we're going to activate on this yet, but we've got a pop-up store going on Larimer Street right now.
Oh, interesting.
In an empty retail space. We popped it up for the holidays to kind of test some things. And so it'll still be live when the show's going on. And I think we'll probably figure out how to do some activations around that. Just because it ended up being a really cool view into our brand. And so I'd like to show it to more people. Yeah.
Well, if you guys want to do anything podcast related, I'd happy to do something live there. I haven't entered the streaming world yet, but I'm sure I can figure it out. So
yeah, that could be totally interesting.
Yeah, cool.
I appreciate that offer.
Yeah, sure. So what other outdoor activities do you participate in? You fly fish. I know you cycle because weren't you part of the group that rode to OR last summer in Salt Lake?
I was.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was our 10th ride to OR.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I felt like when I joined Smartworld, I didn't. I've been a mountain biker for a long time, but I really haven't been a road biker, and so I had to turn myself into a road biker to survive that ride. But it was great, and we're in the process right now of crafting a new route so that we can ride to Denver.
Oh, awesome!
And I'll plant the seed here. Our team will probably get really mad at me, but I think we're gonna do our third night. We're gonna end in Boulder, and then we're planning a big community ride from Boulder to the show.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And we're going to welcome sort of as many people as we can to come join us. And so we'll figure out how to spread that word with a little more clarity. But I think there's going to be a cool thing that we'll do around that summer show.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Plan on a ride from Boulder to Denver this summer.
Yeah. No, it should be super cool.
It'll be fun.
In terms of other stuff, I'm just generally an outdoor. My family is an outdoor family. So we fish and camp and raft in the summertime, and wintertime we're sort of spoiled now here in Steamboat. We do a lot of skiing. I'm having to sharpen up my skis after a bunch of years and
nice.
Doing more backcountry stuff. And so we're fortunate in that regard for sure.
Great. And do you have any suggestions or advice for someone wanting to get into the outdoor biz or maybe grow their career if they're already in the outdoor biz?
Yeah. For the folks that are already in, you mentioned it a little earlier with Stacia. I think there's some really cool opportunities in the space right now, like the Future Leaders Academy that Stacia helps run, that OIA puts on. I think that's an awesome program. It's starting its third cycle. Yeah. And we've had just a really good response to that. I think there's things like the Sustainability Working Group that OI helps facilitate that can be a great networking opportunity and, help fundamentally move the industry forward on sustainability. We got lots of great conservation organizations that you can get involved with that I think help create those relationships in the space. It's somewhat of an insular industry, right? So you'll meet outdoor industry people in all these conservation organizations, and at the end of the day, it's all about the network.
Right.
So, and I think the same is somewhat true for folks trying to get into the space. I think, when I talk to people that are trying to get in, I always caution them that I think we're an overly insular industry. We always want to be hiring folks who have outdoor industry experience, and that can be really hard for people who are trying to get into the space. But that's where things like volunteering with conservation organizations and places like that will just give you exposure to the people in the industry.
Right.
And I think just help you network your way in.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's good suggestions, both of those. And do you have any daily routines you use to keep your sanity? Do you meditate, exercise?
Oh, I wish I meditated.
A lot of folks have said that too.
Yeah,
hard to find the time, right? How do you find the 20 minutes or 30 minutes of doing nothing?
Totally. It's hard to create that space. I am pretty dependent on exercise for sanity. I wish I could figure out how to get a bit more of both exercise and sanity. But even just getting outside, I'm hugely dependent on being outdoors.
Cool.
For just probably like lots of us in the industry. Getting outside gives me a chance to recharge a bit.
There you go, every day. Yeah. And how about books? You a big reader? Do you have any favorite books, or do you give books as gifts?
I love to read. I don't consume as many books anymore as I would like to. One of my favorites is a book called All the Pretty Horses.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
He wrote that.
What was the guy's name again?
His name's Cormac McCarthy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the book's, it's probably now 15 or 20 years old. It's probably not 20, but it's, I grew up, my family raised horses. We had a little horse farm.
Cool.
And so I've always been a sucker for both horses and big Western landscapes. And I feel like that book really pulls both in a just a beautiful way.
Yeah, he wrote a bunch of good books. He wrote a trilogy of some sort, didn't he?
He did. All the Pretty Horses is the first of three in that trilogy. And I think it's, I don't know what I know, but I think it's the best by far within that group of books.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we'll link to that in the show notes. And do you have a favorite piece of outdoor gear under $100?
Yeah. This is going to sound super self-serving, but a great pair of merino socks.
There you go. Yep.
I have to admit, I didn't fully appreciate a pair of great socks until I got here. But I say now, like, if you've never worn a great pair of merino socks, you'll never go back once you do.
Yeah, no, they're great.
And so it's, I think, a super easy gift.
When I was with Eagle Creek, we shared a rep. Mike Sullivan down in Texas did Smart Wool and Eagle Creek, and he always spiffed us out in socks. I've never gone back. They're fabulous. So that's a good choice. And let's see, before I ask my next question, after we say goodbye at the end, you don't have to hang up. I want to see what you thought. I think I forgot to tell you that. I'll edit that. Sure. I'll edit that out.
Right on.
Is there anything else you want to say or ask of our audience before we wrap up?
Boy, what would I say? I'd love to leave folks with a sense of optimism for the outdoor industry. I was thinking about this going into outdoor retailer and the new year and all this. I think outdoor continues to have just unlimited opportunity. There's certainly noise and everything that we've talked about right now going on in the space, but there's so many trends moving our direction in the world that I think we just have lots and lots of opportunity. And so I think we got to remember that the glass is half full rather than half empty these days.
Yeah, we're still a young industry relatively. I mean, when you look at the auto industry or some of these huge businesses that have been around for eons, we're infants.
Yep, we're just getting started, and I think the best days are still ahead.
Yeah.
And so, I'm also a big believer in momentum in businesses and industries, and so kind of getting us shifted toward optimistic and a positive future, I think is really powerful.
Yeah.
And we sell awesome stuff, and we help people get outdoors and lead better lives. And how cool is that?
Yeah, we sell toys. I mean, it's great. Yeah. Adult, get outside and have fun.
And then the other thing seed I'd plant is just encourage everybody to get involved.
Excellent.
And what I mean by that is these are rather unprecedented times, and we need people to step up and get engaged in sustainability and get engaged in conservation, and make sure that we are protecting those places that matter to us personally and professionally.
Right. That's good advice. And how can people find you on email, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn?
Yeah.
What's your favorite? What's the best?
Man, this is going to show that I'm sort of a Luddite. You can find me on email.
All right, that's perfect. No, that's good. Well, you're a busy guy. You don't have time to tweet and post Instagram, and I get it.
Yeah, I love the idea of being connected that way, but boy, I just can't do it right now. And so, you can get me on email. I try to be good about responding. Would love to connect.
Yeah, all right. We'll link to your email, and we'll link to the Instagram and Facebook feeds for Smartwool in the show notes, so everybody can see what cool stuff you guys are doing there.
That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Trip. Thanks for the time. It's been great chatting with you. And
absolutely. Enjoyed the conversation, Rick.
Thank you. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Okay.
All right. Bye. All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Travis Campbell. You can catch up with Travis by email at travis_campbell@vfc.com. That's TRAVIS_CAMPBELL. You'll find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episode/071. I would be grateful if you visit iTunes and give us a rating and review, and be sure to share this episode or tell a friend about it. If you're enjoying the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can support the show by visiting theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/patron and see the many ways you can support the show. Thanks for listening. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. Be sure and go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com where you'll find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. Thanks for listening, and until next time, be sure to make time to get outside.